Good evening, everybody. We're going to get this governing board meeting started. If we could have everyone take a seat, or if we can have everyone try and stop their conversations, please, so we can get our meeting underway.
Once would have been.
Thank you. That's a good way to get everyone's attention, right? We are calling this governing board meeting to order this evening, and for the record, we have 4 of 5 board members present, and Mr. Adm is absent due to family issues. At this time, we would like to adopt our agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda?
No, not at this time.
All right, can I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
I'll move to adopt the agenda. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, at this time, we'd like to have a moment of silence, and thank you for that. Would you please rise so we can have the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time on the agenda, it actually says call to public, but I would like to move that after all of our special recognitions. So can we just have a motion to move our call to the public after the recognitions?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. So at this time, we're going to go to number 4, special recognition. And this time we have an employee recognition. Ms. Scott
Yes,
Jones?
Madam President, members of the board, we're excited tonight. We are going to recognize our district retiring employees for their dedication and service to Glendale Elementary School District. We will go down to do that, but I would like to recognize first there were some people that could not be in attendance. If we were trying to catch everybody as they walked in, so if I call your name as not being here, just raise your hand so we know you really are here, and then we'll call you up to receive your award. But the ones I have that are not here, Randy Boyle is a contract specialist for warehouse and purchasing, and he is retiring with a service of 2 years. I have Sandra Cross is payroll technician for finance, and she is retiring with service of 11 years. I have Karen Hinton Venero, teacher discovery, who is retiring after 11 years of service. I have Adolfo Molina, a groundskeeper from maintenance, and is retiring after 18 years. I have Ramon Peralta. He's a lead custodian at Horizon, and he is retiring after 16 years. I have Barbara Renfro, administrative assistant for business services. She's retiring after 9 years. I have Tony Robinson. He's a food service worker for Don Menzendeck, and he's retiring after 15 years. I have Patty Rose, a teacher at Smith, and she's retiring after 10 years. I have Deborah Short as a teacher at Bicentennial South, and she's retiring after 1 year of service. I have Alicia Sigala is a cleaner at Melvin East Sign, and she's retiring after 18 years. I have Daryl Tremblay is a groundskeeper at maintenance. He's retiring after 14 years. And I have Isabel Zambrano, who's a food services cashier at Cody Ridge, and she is retiring after 12 years of service. So we do want to thank those employees for their time with us. Okay, at this time, we will, when I call your name, if you'll please come forward to accept your award. Let me move this way. First, we have Maria Amaya de Hinojosa, cleaner, Glendale American, and with her service is 4 years. So, Maria. Thank you. Do we want them to stand? Okay. Maria, can you come back and stand with us? We're going to do a group picture. Maria. So we'll just have you stand until the others come, please. Thank you. Next, we have Marcia Castillo, and she has service with us for 18 years. Thank you, Marcia, for everything.
Thanks.
You'll stand with me. Next, we have Mary Lee Cornell, Educational Assistant, Coyote Ridge, 17 years of service. Thank you so much for your service. Yes. Next, we have Donna Gross, nurse, William C. Jack, with 14 years of service. Thank you, Donna. Next, we have Peggy Jo McKinney. She's an educational assistant at Sunset Vista with 8 years of service. Peggy Jo, you have a beautiful name. That's my mother's name. Spelled the same way.
Oh, really?
Yes. Next, we have Cynthia Misbeeks, teacher, Melvin East Sign, 21 years of service. I think you have a beautiful name. My name's Cynthia also. So. I'm looking real quick to see if my dad's name is listed on here. Okay, next we have Ronald Palmer, teacher at Horizon, 6 years of service. Thank you so much for your service. Next, we have Kimberly Sherrera, Food and Nutrition Services, and she's been in the district for 27 years. She was here. Okay. All right, next. We have Lloyd Zirkin. He's a social emotional learning specialist from Coyote Ridge, and Lloyd's been here 10 years. Thank you, Lloyd, for all you've done. Thank you so much. Next, we have Sydney Thomas, teacher at Glendale Landmark, 30 years of service. Congratulations, Sydney. Thank you so much. And now we have Frances Zinsley, teacher at Bicentennial South, for 24 years of service. Thank you, Fran, for your service. All right, that is the list of everyone. Please, that's what's on our list. If we've forgotten anybody, raise your hand. All right. Thank you so much. And Mr. Cummings will come do pictures, and I know he's going to move us all every which way. So.
You and Lloyd. I feel your pain.
Do you want us behind them, Jim?
Let's get them first.
Okay. All right, we'll go behind you. I'm going to stand by the legends.
And hoping it rubs off.
Thank you. Congratulations. Yeah, because they're going to read. So. Next on the agenda, we're going to move to the recognition of our poetry winners, and I'm going to turn that over to Dr. Jerry Peterson and Carvalho.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here this evening. We have an annual tradition where we have our poetry winners, the first place winners, present their poetry to the audience and to the governing board and superintendent this evening. And the top three poetry winners from every grade level have been identified, and they will be celebrated as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Carol Lettieri, who is our Director of Special Education.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Greetings, President Smith, members of the board, Superintendent Cindy Sagata-Jones, parents, colleagues, and students. Most important, it is my honor to present the 1819 District Poetry winners. This evening, we have the opportunity to celebrate the power, the inspiration, and beauty that words can convey. Please join me in congratulating this year's winners. For second and third place winners, when I call your name, please stand and walk towards the table to be presented with your award and medal and to shake hands with the governing board and superintendent. First place winners, when I call your name, please come to me so that you can read your poem before receiving your certificate and medal. Are you guys ready? And Alba Cordova is here to help me with the reading of the names.
Kinder from Desert Garden, first place, Devick Hutchins.
I see a bat. I see a cat. They wear a hat.
Thank you. Right here, Terry.
Third place from first grade, from Sign, Arsuma Binti Abu Said. Second place from Imes, Daisha Jones. First place from Imes, Crystal Lopez.
Watermelon, a fruit, juicy, sweet, healthy, good with chili mix, a summer treat.
From second place, third place from Sunset Vista, Daisy Garcia. And she's not here today. From Desert Garden, second place, Diana Aboit. And our first place winner for second grade from Sunset Vista, Araya Enamorado.
Spring in the air, peace is flying through the air. Real cute animals wake up. In the spring, you have so much fun. No loudness comes to ruin the day. Girls and boys, be quiet and go play.
Third grade, third place winner from Bayside South, Leilani Peña. She's not here. Second place winner from Sunset Vista, Sarin Barakat. And our first place winner from Horizon, Adrian Puente Ramos.
Every morning I like to eat crunchy and sweet, yellow and brown. My hood goes down. Every morning I like to drink clear and fresh, big and cold. It's good for you. It's what I'm told. Every morning I like to stay in bed, comfy and tall, soft and gray. I could sleep all day, but every morning I'll go to school, yellow and blue, big and smart, to be a counselor or police officer. I will get my start.
Fourth place, our third place winner from Horizon, Lillian Surek. Our second place winner from Sunset Vista, Emily Vasquez Dominguez. And she's not here. And our first place winner from Desert Spirit, Esteban Rodriguez.
White is a chewed bone. White is whipped cream on pancakes. White is falling ice in a hailstorm. White is doves flying with grace. White tastes like sticky marshmallows. White smells like a freshly cut coconut. White sounds like joyful Christmas music. White feels like snow on the ground. White looks like a cold winter day. White makes me want to go play. White is a mint. Mint.
For fifth place, our third place winner, Makula Bayo, is not here from American. Our second place winner is from Landmark, Avenera, Maines. And our first place winner from Challenger, Aurora Ann Blythe Serrano.
As the cherry blossom leaves hovered over me, I thought of the love that was soon to be lost, but I'd still love her without a cost. She was moving to Windy City, somewhere far from me. After a while, I remembered the cherry blossom tree. I'd send her an envelope full of pink flowers and call her on the phone to talk for hours. I'd love her always, even if she didn't know. Maybe giving her a sweater for the windy days would make that love show. After she moved, she sent me a letter. As I read it, it got better and better. Her words so pretty, she told me she missed me and that she had a good life in that same Windy City.
From 6th grade, our third place winner from Landmark, Nasreen Saeed Amir. Our second place winner from Burton is not here, Joshua Ochoa. And our first place winner from Desert Spirit, Sherlyn Morales.
Children are running around me. I try to get them under control. I blow my whistle and they're like fools. I get my marker and write down many things. I lift others up and teach many things. At 4 o'clock, I sigh on my tiredness. I put on my orange vest and tell them to line up. When they're all out, I can finally get rest. I look around the errors and smile at myself. I write that what they need to fix. I put all my papers away and walk over to my shelf. I see all of my kids, all to myself. I am their mentor and their teacher.
Seventh grade, our third place winner from American, Daniel Lopez. Our second place winner is not present today, Lynn Lopez from American as well. And our first place winner from Landmark, Jonathan Monk.
Where I am from. I am from beaches, from sand and dunes that wash away like bird migrations. I am from seashells that give their music. I am from where clouds are white and the sun is light, where the water is our savior, where the people dance and play like stars at night. Our language is funny and accented, from rocks that move like people, from watching the fire burn as a show. That is where I'm from.
In our eighth grade, our third place winner from Landmark, Jada Feinsilver, who's not here. Our second place winner from Landmark, Frankie Dominic Serrano. And our first place winner from Challenger, Alexandra Estanislao. Sorry.
An astronaut's dream by Alexandra Stanislaw. Emptiness, the ray of one's ambitiousness. A glimpse of sunlight peeking through some blemished window pane. As he flew aimlessly in an endless night, he became farther from his so-called aeroplane. Perhaps his face is covered with a cellophane, blinded by the mask of his dreams in vain. Silent is a music for aching ears. Light is a sight for sore eyes. In just a flick of a finger, the pain disappears. As he saw hope, battle cries. At last, he felt his feet touch the ground, a place where no one was around. His determination arose in the background as he heard the stones and rocks moving sound. He felt the joy like happy endings in movies. Constant heartbeats kept occurring. He was thankful that he focused on his priorities. The impossible dream made it hard to keep going. Some say hard work pays off. The road to success is indeed rough. But if you set your mind and heart into something, You'll someday achieve it. Keep on trying.
Thank you, everybody. That concludes the presentation of awards. And one more round of applause for our wonderful poets that we have here with us tonight. Parents, families, and students, you can join me back in room 18 to finish your snacks and desserts at this time as well. Thank you.
Machine gun. My pens work. So I'm like, oh. Well, actually, then we'll do an approval of the thing of accept, and then she'll ask you. Okay. Verify the difference between the two. I'm pretty sure that was attached, the expirations. This one's here. This one's here. Two different schools.
Where are those teeth, Jody? With teeth.
The explanation.
Well, we want to thank everyone that was here that has retired and that we were able to recognize them. And I also just want you all to see that we actually have a poetry book, so we get to actually read the second and the third place winners. So if you want to read them, you're welcome to ask for a copy to read these poems. And so, because as you can tell, they're really good. So let's go to C, which is another district recognition.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, we have two recognitions here. We would like to recognize the district for being named one of the Phoenix Business Journal's healthiest employers. And also for receiving the Gold Healthy Arizona Worksite Award. Actual awards have not arrived yet. There's something wrong, Davida said, with the gold, so it's coming. But we do want to recognize them with a certificate and do pictures. So Jody and David, if you'll come up, we appreciate everything that you've done and everybody that has helped with this. You're in the middle with this one. You need to hold that.
We want to thank Davida for all her hard work. We went to a really nice reception at the Hyatt for all the companies that are being recognized throughout the valley for being health conscious, and so it was really nice to have that recognition for the district, and then we realized that we actually do a lot more, and we could have been better on that list. So next year, the application, we're going to be way up there because we're going to have dogs and ponies.
Okay. For some reason, ponies and chandeliers are now dogs. And what? Goat yoga.
Yeah,
All right.
Goat yoga, yeah. All right, we're going to go to public comments, and I just want to remind you when you address the board that the board will not respond to you, and that you have 3 minutes to speak, and so we are going to have, the only request I have is from Charla Higley.
Hi. I wrote this down because I want to keep on track. I'm a resident and taxpayer of the city of Glendale and the Glendale Elementary District. My son is a current Horizon student, my daughters are former Horizon students, and I've been a GESD teacher for 20 years. I am rooted in this community, and I'm here tonight to speak to you about a concern I have for next year. I have already spoken to my administration and was troubled with the message that was conveyed to me from the district level. So I went to the district myself to find out what could be done, and was still troubled when I was told we are going to wait and see. I am still concerned, so now I am bringing my concern to you. My concern is about staffing in the 7th grade at Challenger next year. Currently, we have 4 7th grade teachers, 1 ELD group, and 3 Gen Ed groups. There are 5 6th grade groups that will be coming up to us in the 7th grade next year. 1 ELD group and 4 Gen Ed groups. This creates a major problem for the Gen Ed classes. With the current numbers in 6th grade, the 4 classes have 122 students in them, which will have to be forced into 3 classes next year, bringing the Gen Ed numbers next year to over 40-plus students in a classroom. This is a worrisome situation to be faced with, which will have a dramatic impact on student learning. How can students receive any type of quality education with these types of numbers in the classroom? The understanding I have is that we are going to use current staffing, which is only 4 teachers, regardless of how many students are moving up from the 6th grade. I understand that if we have this many students the first week next year, we will get another teacher, but I guess I don't really understand why we would wait to try to hire someone, knowing the high numbers coming up next year. Next year, the current staffing in the 7th grade will consist of 3 teachers who will be in their 2nd year in GESD and myself. As a veteran teacher, I cannot imagine what these newer teachers to GESD must be thinking when faced with these types of numbers next year. I don't even want to face what that will look like in my classroom, and I have 20 years of teaching experience. How can we talk about retaining quality teachers when we put new and inexperienced teachers into a situation like this, especially when we know ahead of time the problem is there? If we wait to hire a teacher in August, what is the chance of hiring a qualified teacher? How long will it take to hire someone or get someone into that classroom? I know this issue has been recognized because I have been bringing my concerns to my administration and then to the district. I am here to advocate for GESD students. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right. right, we are moving to 5, the consent agenda. Do we have any items on our consent agenda that board members would like pulled at this time?
Madam President, I'd like to pull 5F, please.
Hearing no others besides F, we need a motion at this time.
Move to adopt the agenda, setting aside F.
Second.
Ms. Pimentel, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Wilson?
Aye.
Ms. Bartels?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Okay, Ms. Pimentel on F.
I paid attention to all of the out-of-county travel, and I noticed that there is a leading change workshop. Can I say names? Mm-hmm. So I see that Becky Brum from Sunset Vista is going, and the total cost of the travel is $905. And then the next next travel request is for Tamara Yazi and Ashley Apicella. Same conference, but the travel is 4 times the amount for 2 people. And I was wondering why.
Looks like the registrations are much different cost.
And the registration fee.
Yeah, they're different.
Yeah, if I may, it's a mistake. On the travel request form, under the registration, that second number should not be there.
Okay.
And then under the meal lodging, that second number should also not be there.
For which one are you referring to? Are you referring to the second one?
The second leading change conference one, the number.
Both numbers would be $790.
Not the Becky Brum one, but the second one. So that second one on the travel request form under the charge registration 2, that registration cost, the second one should not be there. And then under the meal and lodging, the second one should not be there. So both of them.
Or $790.
It would be less that amount of money, which is 24, 30, 40, 24, 30.
So are they both different? Is that it? Because they go on at the same time.
Yeah, it's actually the same conference. It's just my guess is that
one deals with something different.
it's because if you look to the left under the codes, one code says 2213 and one code says 2570. If you see that as the third group of numbers, 2570 is an administration code and 2213 is a teacher code. And so really that 790 should be split between those 2 codes. And then the 790 again is split between those 2 codes. That's what should happen.
Okay, so the amounts should not be there, but the codes should be.
Correct.
Okay. And is that the same for the mileage as well?
The mileage, that is the same with the mileage. Yes, thank you.
Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you for catching that.
All right, Ms. Pimentel, you want to make a motion?
I make a motion to accept 5F.
I'll second.
All right. Ms. Pimentel, you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Wilson?
Aye.
Ms. Bartels?
I'm just going to point out that it's with the corrections noted. So I vote aye.
Aye. Okay, now we are on to 6A, APS Solar Communities Program.
Yes, Madam President. Yes, Madam President, members of the board. This evening we will have a presentation as our Public Service Solar Communities Program. The administration will present a report regarding the implementation of APS Solar Communities Program, and I will turn it over to Mr. Mike Berrigan.
Madam President, members of the board, thank you. This you have representatives from APS here who are going to talk a little bit about kind of the grant and this opportunity for our district, and I'm sure there's others throughout the state that might be eligible for this. And so they're going to walk you through what that eligibility requirement was. And if you looked at the board agenda item, one of the main criteria is that that school or school district has to meet a 40% or greater free and reduced lunch percentage. And then there's other factors that they obviously have taken into consideration. We have obviously 19 different locations, 19 properties. I believe 4 of those are specific to APS only. In other words, the remaining school sites are serviced and are under the territory of SRP, and therefore would not be eligible for this because these would be specific to only APS clients. And so part of that, I'm sure that they'll walk you through the schools and or the properties that are under APS and how that eligibility occurred to the point that we're here today. So I'll turn it over to APS to do their presentation, and I promise it's a brief presentation. I believe there's 7 or 8 slides. Thank you. Yeah, so much. Just make sure that you introduce.
Good evening. My name is Austin Hatfield. I'm here with Arizona Public Service just to talk about the solar program with you guys. Clicker here. All right, so the program is open to qualifying customers and those who primarily serve limited income customers all throughout our APS territory, and that includes all of our state regions. So the little map there shows everywhere we cover throughout the state. The program came out of our 2017 rate case that I'm sure all of you guys remember if you live in the APS territory, and it's designed to run for 3 years. So in those 3 years, each year we're going to have a capital spend projecting roughly $10 to $15 million for these projects. Just a little background, for 2018, we did use just about all of that at $14 million, and we are projecting to hit the 15 for this year as well. And we're doing that by deploying our utility-owned PV systems, using local installers, so bringing business to our local mom and pop shops kind of thing, giving them, and they're credited customers, they're ones we've done research on that do quality work. And the panels get directly connected to our distribution system. The way we credit customers through this is it's a monthly bill credit due to the fact that the energy production is tied straight to the grid and not the customer's locations themselves. Oh, there we go. So program participants, the primary participants, we have a residential program we're doing this for as well. And we're applying this program towards limited income residential customers for both single family and multifamily dwellings. And as the secondary participants are moderate income residential customers. And the way we're judging this is using the federal poverty guidelines. And so that way it can help with retirees and people on fixed incomes as well. And then the third party, other eligible participants are organizations that serve the moderate to limited income customers, which Title I schools, nonprofit organizations, and rural government areas as well. A little bit about the credits. Residential customers see a $30 kickback every month on their bill, and then that's for single-family homes through a rooftop solar program. And multifamily dwellings see $15 per month per customer and $1,000 annually back to the owner, and we do that through covered parking. Same with the non-residential, so locations, the nonprofits, the Title I schools type of locations. The bill credit's calculated as $2.50 per kilowatt per month, and we're doing that through the covered parking structures as well. So here's a little more of the overview for how the non-residential program is working, where we're partnering with the Title I schools and the nonprofit organizations that serve the limited income population all throughout the state. We're installing the solar covered parking structures that helps bring to the customers places to park where they're not getting sun beat on their cars, keeping them a little cooler and stuff as well. And they are owned and maintained by APS for the next 20 years is how the program is working. So we do research to include room to accommodate a minimum of 50 kW system size, which is about 20 parking spots. But we do a little more thorough depth look into those parking spots based off which way we can pitch the arrays for the best production out of the panels and make sure we don't have to do too much tree removal kind of thing. We're trying to keep all that to a limited amount of tree removals as well, and that falls into the little to no shading obstructions. And again, you see there the bill credit, $2.50 per kilowatt per month. So this is the project that's going to take place here in the north parking lot. So the total system size that we're getting out of it is 250 kilowatts of AC power, which at that $2.50 per kilowatt hour per month does bring you to the $625 a month, and then the rest of the cost breakdowns right there. The reason we picked this location is we're only doing one location at this time per school district since it's only a 3-year program. And we found that this was the best site due to it goes right back to the shade and how many parking spots. We want to maximize the amount of area we have with the minimal amount of impact to the place we're doing it by tree removals and taking up time and spots and all that type of stuff. So a little bit of our schedule falling into a June to August build time we're trying to accommodate while everyone's out for the summer, and hopefully gives us a little more room out there to get the work done. So this slide's just a few pictures of what other structures around the state that we've been working on have looked like. The bottom one there is a St. Vincent de Paul site that's actually about to be getting energized. And then the other top two ones, one on the right's another school. And then the top left is just to show what the equipment mounted to the poles look like under the structure. Put them up high so they're out of the way, people don't bump heads, stuff like that. But that's roughly what they'll be looking like. And that concludes. There's my contact info and Tammy's. She's a part of the program as well on the customer technology side. So, do you guys have any questions?
I have a quick one.
Yeah.
Back 2 slides back when it was our parking lot. So is that outline, is that the only place of parking? So kind of those outer spaces won't be covered? Or?
Exactly. So
Okay.
we're covering those inner areas there.
So it's like one giant structure right there.
It's going to be, I believe it's 3 separate. The way I don't have a layout printed with me, but I believe it's 3 separate because we don't have one together yet. We're in permitting still. It should be the 2 strips on the left and right will each have their own structure, and the top right has its own structure, I believe is what it is.
So you say it's a 3-year program, so is that right?
So yeah, for new customers, new applicants, it's a 3-year program, fiscal years 18, 19, and 20.
So what happens after 3 years?
So after 3 years, we'll probably have another case or study that we'll do. It's unknown at this time exactly what we're going to do, but our goal is to extend the program, to keep doing it, giving more new customers a chance. All the customers who get in those 3 years, of course, will stay. It's a 20-year contract with those people, but we're not sure what we're going to do for new customers after the 3 years.
Madam President, members of the board, what I also if you have a visual, think of the Walmart, one of those, parking areas. Obviously, it's not going to be that large or significant, but it gives you an idea of what we're talking about. There's also a church at 43rd Avenue and Glendale, just south of Glendale. You'll see some of that covered parking as well, just to give you a visual of an idea of what that would look like.
I think they did that over at the church here.
Yes, and that's correct. That's the other location as well.
And I have one question. So you have where it says the Glendale project details, you had an area outlined called laydown area. Is that where your materials are going to go?
Prep and stuff, that's the staging spot where they'll be using to get materials prepped. I believe there's a Connex coming in, but I think we're trying to keep that out of the way too, just to spot the store materials safely where they're locked up. Can't be broken into kind of thing.
And so your schedule is from June to August. Is that beginning of August, end of August?
That's subject to when we get permitted, and it's not quite permitted yet to allow us to start construction, so that's our rough schedule. Okay. We'll have, once we get permitted and no construction timelines, then we'll have something a little more in depth.
Thank you.
Madam President, members of the board, I think it's important to know that this undertaking will create some inconvenience, but really looking at the long-term impact that's going to have on the district, providing solar, reducing our utility costs by at least $650 every month, and our employees and visitors will have covered parking at no cost to the district. So our goal is really to be done right before school starts on our end, and we will have to look at alternative parking to accommodate obviously the employees that are 12 months here and that might be visiting or visitors just in general. So there will be a construction project, and that's going to create a little, we're going to park in different areas, but our goal is really for the long-term impact of the district and the community.
Can we reach out to, because I know we have the no parking 7 to 4 Monday through Friday. Is that something that we can ask the city if they can make that temporary available to us to park on the street?
Madam President, members
before school starts?
Madam President, members of the board, we are looking at alternative solutions, and so that's currently in the works. Greg is working on providing some of those recommendations to see what that long short-term solution is while this is completed, and we have a couple ideas, but we're looking at all options as well.
I have one more question. So with these panels up, about approximately how much energy do the amount of panels that we would be getting, how much energy does that generate?
It's a 250 kW system, so if you think your building here is probably running on, depending, anywhere from 100 to 400 kW, but that's what it's generating it, throughout the monthly kind of cycle.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, looks like we have no more questions, so thank you for presenting today.
Of course, thank you.
Thank you.
And you're done with your presentation too? Okay. All right, we're going to go on to B, the bond sale.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, tonight we will use Mr. Berrigan and our district's financial advisors will report the process and the ratings by Moody's and Fitch of GSD and the bond sale of $9 million.
Madam President, members of the board, thank you. We have Bill Davis, who is our financial advisor with Piper Jaffray. I'll let him kind of walk you through the packet that he's handing out, which you may already have. He'll touch on it, and then I also want to kind of provide a different perspective or add some supplemental information. And while it's 35 pages long, I promise we won't go through all 35. We're just going to highlight some of those key areas and or key pages of the presentation.
Might want tabs.
Sorry, I was interrupting. Thank you.
Super. Thanks, Mike. Good evening, Madam President, Superintendent Jones. Again, my name is Bill Davis. I'm with the firm of Piper Jaffray and working with the district as your financial advisor. And I think, as Mike mentioned, we had bids for the sale of bonds last week. And if you turn to section 2, we'll just kind of touch on a couple pages in here, and then I can answer any questions. We ended up getting 6 very, very competitive bids. You can see the detail on the first page. I think the highlight is the interest rate on the very bottom left inside the green box. You can see that the true interest cost came in at a 1.83%, which is, it's just really inexpensive money to borrow. The next page, which is slide 8, kind of just illustrates this 1.83% in comparison to the district's last 3 sales in terms of where those interest rates were now. It just, interest rates have been low for a long, long time. Part of the reason that our interest rate is so low here is because our structure is pretty short. We had a lot of principal maturing of the $9 million total, or $8,305,000. The first 3 years amortizes out almost half of that, so it's pretty short, which is, a great thing for taxpayers. So in addition to the low interest rate, we're paying the debt off very quickly, which gives you the flexibility of issuing the balance of that voter authorization and also keeping that interest expense as low as possible.
Madam President, members of the board, think of it a 30-year mortgage versus a 15-year mortgage. Obviously, right, the longer you have that loan, the more you end up paying in interest. Obviously, the shorter loan, you end up having savings because obviously that debt doesn't go that far out. So that concept applies here as well.
Thank you, Mike. Section 3 just provides kind of a comparison between our bonds, how they sold in terms of yield, and how that compares to recent other Arizona school district bond sales. So you can see on this first page, slide 10, we're comparing Glendale Elementary to Mesa, Penderghast, and Queen Creek. And it's, it reflects this page and the next 2 pages are just, very favorable comparison.
Madam President, members of the board, if you just look at, you have Glendale on your far left, if you see that, and I'm looking at body language to make sure that we're all on the same page. You see Glendale's kind of, that debt is fairly short. Mesa is short, Penderghast is short, but look at Queen Creek. Theirs goes out further. And then if you just flip over to the next page, you have other districts. You can just see, again, so think of it this way. A 15-year mortgage versus that 30-year mortgage, obviously the shorter the better, right? What I think is also important, and I think in the almost 6 years that I've been here, I think you've realized I do business a little bit differently. If you look at every district that's named on those 2 pages, you see that there's an underwriter and a financial advisor section, and then it will give you the underwriter on top, the financial advisor. If you just put those pages side by side, so I believe there are 8 examples on those 2 documents. Of those 8, only 2 have financial advisors. The reason I want to point this out is because part of my own philosophy is that school districts should have financial advisors when they're selling bonds, whether it's a competitive sale versus a negotiated sale. An underwriter, their role is to provide, and please correct me if I'm wrong or if I say anything that is inaccurate, the underwriter has a responsibility to provide a fair dealing to both parties, the person selling the bonds and the entity that is buying the bonds. The financial advisor has more responsibility. Their responsibility is solely to the district, not to the individual, not to the firms that are buying those bonds. They have a fiduciary responsibility to the district. I believe that I want my taxpayers' interests to be protected, not anyone else's. And so you can see, if you just, again, do that comparison to the ones that have financial advisors to the ones that don't, just look at the numbers. They're telling. And the other thing that's important is looking at the ratings. So up above, you see ratings. I believe the AAA is the highest rating possible. And I know that I have it outlined. Is it Paradise Valley? I'm sorry, there are 3 pages. I apologize. There are 3 pages. If you go to that 3rd page and you compare those ratings to what our rating is and to the interest or the true interest cost, I believe at least we have outperformed, if not all of them, if not most of them, all of them. And you have to take all these different scenarios into consideration. So while I recognize it's not apples to apples, the important piece is that our taxpayers are paying less when we're borrowing money. So to the point that Bill made, we're borrowing $9 million, and that true interest cost is, I think, rounding is 1.84% when you look at that. And I think it's also important to see the last 3 or 4 sales that we've done here. We outperformed ourselves this last sale. Bill, is there anything that you'd want to add on those specific slides?
That really covers it pretty well. I think the just kind of comparison between Glendale L and Mesa Unified, similar structures. Our average life was a little bit shorter, but just for comparison, our 1.84 true interest cost, they were about 1.92. So, it just shows you that we got a very, very fair pricing and actually, I think, a very exceptional pricing and interest rate on that sale.
So what is the, when it says Fitch and then it says S&P, what's S&P?
Great question. Good question. There are three major rating agencies, Fitch, Standard & Poor's, which is S&P, and Moody's. So it's just an acronym for Standard & Poor's. Yeah.
But think of them as, we all have credit scores, right? Equifax, whatever those other 2 are, right?
Experian.
Those are, think of it this way, those rating agencies is equivalent to those companies that rate our own individual credit scores. So the closer you're to 1,000 credit score, the better you are, you're worthy of being, borrowing money at at a lower cost. So think of the rating agency as the folks for us that determine our credit worthiness. And based on that, we borrow money either at a low interest rate or a high interest rate. So that rating agency is very critical. And we're going to talk briefly about why that is so important and what they look at.
What's
the AAA.
AAA.
And I believe at least with Fitch, we're about
one notch.
One notch below AAA. And I believe we're 2 notches below AAA with Standard & Poor.
But they're Moody's and ours is.
And that's actually a pretty good segue. Each of the rating agencies, we have a choice on which ones we use. They charge us for that rating. They give us a letter grade that then investors from across the country can look at that and read the reports that they provide, which is those two reports are in the last section. And I'll touch on that in 1 second. But if you think about it, if you're an investor in Florida or California or New York and you're interested in municipal bonds, or if you're a portfolio manager for a money market fund or a high wealth individual, you utilize those ratings to help you identify which bonds you're interested in, number one, and then what's a fair interest rate for that particular bond in the market at that point in time. So that's the value. It helps the district access that market and get the best possible rate. The reports, again, they're in the last section. I'd like, if you have a chance, you might read through it. A couple things to highlight. As Mike mentioned, they look at the district's credit from a number of different perspectives. Demographics, wealth, the debt that you have outstanding, the overlapping debt, but also management capability and the decisions that you all make over the course of time, how you manage, in Arizona's unique school finance environment, which is really challenging. So one of the things that you'll see that they highlighted was the discipline, the quality, the soundness of management, the planning, maintaining fund balances. They look at Glendale L as though it's a business, if you will, and they're trying to tell investors of your ability to make your debt service payments into the future and on time. So again, it was very complimentary of the district, of the board, and of district management. So it's just something to kind of read, and then it'll give you a pretty good idea of what they look for and how they kind of evaluated the district.
Madam President, members of the board, to that point, we're going to touch on that when we do the final revision for the year, a little bit about why that's so important. Those investors need to have confidence in our ability to manage wisely. And so they do, as Bill mentioned, they look at all areas. They're not just looking at M&O, they're not just looking at capital, they're looking at everything. And there were several documents that we provided. Obviously, all the financial information is available on the Department of Education, the comprehensive annual financial report, which are audited statements and documents. But one of the other supplemental pieces of information that we provided was the documents that the superintendent provided you when we had that Saturday study session about our challenges, about what ideas could come potentially or were needed in order to manage the finances of the district, as well as looking at some of the financial statements of the trust board as well. So that information, all of that information is taken into consideration to provide the district with that credit score, right? So again, the closer that, as individuals, we get to 1,000, it's really good. So the closer that we get to that AAA rating is really good for our taxpayers, and you guys live in the district, so that means that you're paying less money to borrow that amount, whatever it is. In this case, it's $9 million. And I just want to correct, I said 8. There are 12 examples in your packets of districts that more recently have sold bonds, and just focus on their rating, whether they had a financial advisor or only an underwriter. And I believe that I believe it's prudent to always have a financial advisor protecting the interest of the district and its taxpayers. And I believe if you look at the data, I believe that should happen more often throughout the state. But I think in closing, unless Bill has some other points or if the board has any questions, but I would encourage you to look at, towards the end, the reports by both Fitch and Standard & Poor. I would hope that information provides a different perspective of what is needed to continue moving in that direction so that there's confidence in our ability to manage. And you'll see that they'll talk about formalizing financial policies that we don't have. They look at all that, and all that's taken into consideration. So the more that we're able to move in that direction, the quicker and hopefully the sooner that we can get into that triple rating, which at the end of the day benefits everyone that's a stakeholder. Bill, is there anything that you'd like to add that we...
Well, I think for our residents as well as our staff, I mean, it's just as critical that we are getting the better rate. Because if we think of our own mortgage or a car payment, that payment's going to be higher, and like you said, or potentially longer, which means more money going out the door. So it's actually in our best interest to do everything we can to get that AAA rating.
And you're going to hear us talk a little bit about the competing interests, and I understand the challenges that all of our decisions have, but we also have to look at the long term, and that's sometimes difficult when we have some short-term challenges. But I encourage you to look at those two reports by Fitch and by S&P. You know, that's the information that we're constantly thinking about and trying to juggle all those competing interests. So I think it's valuable information that I would respectfully ask that you take some time to review.
Well, do you have any other comments? Well, thank you very much for that presentation, and thank you for getting us a good rate. All right, we're going to move on to our action items, and we are on 7A, which is revision number 2 to our expenditure budget.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, it is recommended the Governing Board approve revision number 2 of the expenditure budget for fiscal year 2018-2019 as presented, and we do have Valerie and Mike will be presenting for us.
Madam President, members of the board, we're going to do this presentation a little bit different than we have the last 5 years. We're going to co-present. Valerie will do certain slides, and then you'll get my commentary. So she'll speak from the podium, and I'm just going to sit off to the corner.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board. Tonight we're going to review the final budget revision. We do one in December, which is off of our 40th day ADM, and this is our final off of the 100th day ADM. So we did have an increase. From our 40th day, we had an increase of 27 students compared to the 100th day. And so with that increase, we did see the revenue control limit increase about $380,000. Our override, because of that student increase, we saw the override also increase about $57,000. Our budget balance carry forward remained steady, and our adjustment did not change as well. So the total overall increase to our M&O budget is $437,000. That's the addition because of those increase in students. And here's our ADM comparison. The yellow highlighted is where we were for the 40th day and what we increased to our 100th day for the end of 2019.
Madam President, members of the board, what's important to note, if you look at in the detail of your budget sheets, I think when we looked at this report last night, the ADM has 46-1. It actually decreased by 2 students. So know that the budget is actually going to be overstated by 2 students because they ran a new report last night or sometime yesterday, which kind of decreased that. They'll make that adjustment, and you'll see that adjustment on the budget 75 in the new year. Madam President, members of the board, there's always discussion every year about the budget balance carry forward, and I have always appreciated Board Member President Smith talk about the carry forward and why that's important because of current year funding. This scenario 1, scenario 2 is going to be an attempt to illustrate what could have happened had some decisions not been made or some actions taken. So on May 3rd, when we pulled the data, we had a carry forward of a $2.8 million. But if you recall, going back to February when we had the study session, we talked about moving some expenses out of M&O into other funds. And so we moved, you're looking at $1,141,000 that was initially in M&O that we had to place in a different fund to absorb that reduction in funding. So think of it this way. We have a carry forward of 2.8, but if we had not made that adjustment, we would have $1.1 million less. Had we not increased 27 or 28 kids, we would not have seen an additional $437,000. So again, I'm trying to take that off the top. Had we not done that, we would have had about $1.2 million in a budget balance carry forward as of May 3rd. We also have potentially about $800,000 in expenses in special ed. You take that into consideration, our carry forward would have been about $454,000, which is the lowest that I've noticed, would have been the lowest in several years, and you'll see another slide. And scenario 2 obviously is a little bit more, it's easier to follow. Go ahead and pull the other ones, Val. Oh. So the 2.8 is where we're at. If there's an $800,000 expense that hasn't been realized, we're looking at a carry forward of just shy of $2 million based on the information that we had on May 3rd. So it's going to be important that we understand this as we go into next year. Val, will you go into the next slide? We pulled data going back to 2009, and so what we did was we used the budget 75, the budget 25, and then for illustration purposes, we gave you an estimation, and I'll walk you through that. Obviously, the bottom row is 2009, and you can see that at that time, the carry forward was $1,083,258. And just remember that is money from 2008 going into 2009. So if you look at fiscal year, remember that it's coming from the prior year into the new year. And on the far right, you can see what that percent represented. So in 2009, that was 1.83. And then you can just see to the far right what that's looked like. 2014, 2015, 2016. If you recall, the reason we did not have to reduce our budget, at least from an expense or from just reducing overall expenses in M&O, is because we had a healthy carry forward of that $4 million. And so had we not had that or had that much, we would have had to reduce expenses mid-year, and that would have been very difficult. If you look at the estimate, which is the first row or the top row, assuming that $800,000 in additional special ed expenses is realized, that represents about a 3.31% budget balance carry forward. Now, we know that we're going to, based on the demographic study, we anticipate losing 212 students. So for illustration purposes, I just gave you this current revenue control limit for illustration purposes, but even if we decreased about $1.2 million, which is very close to representing a loss of 212 students, that percentage, maybe from a rounding, would change, but overall it would be still 3%. So I think this is important as we go into next year and in subsequent years, why this will be even more critical moving forward.
Next, we'll just take a look at our capital budget. Not a whole lot of change there. The main change was increase in interest, and for only about $10,000 difference.
If the district additional assistance formula was fully funded, we would generate $5.3 million. We're not fully funded, so we lose about 3.5, which represents a reduction of 65. The average statewide is about 85. For us, it's varied anywhere from 87 to about 89%. This year really was the first year that we had more money into capital because this was the first year that the district additional assistance was being restored, so we gained about $1 million with last legislative's budget negotiations. And again, you're going to hear me say this consistently. From 2009 to 2019, the district has been reduced just shy of $40 million. 36.5 of that is specific to capital funding, and that would represent close to building 2 brand new schools, to put it in perspective. There are no legislative financial safeguards. I believe it was the year that current year funding was implemented, the legislature provided 1 year of financial safeguards. So if you dropped an enrollment, they said that school districts could just default to the prior year and they would be held harmless. That is no longer the case. So any decreases in enrollment, we're going to have to feel it in real time. So financial decisions must be made for long-term sustainability, and that's why it's important. Because we are losing enrollment, we would be losing funding from a capital perspective. right? This year we lost about 570 students. And when it comes to capital funding, that's on prior year data. So you're going to lose money, but because there's going to be an increase in restoring the district additional assistance, it's going to kind of offset some of that, and we won't know really what those final decisions are until hopefully the next week or so. So just kind of keep that in mind. Enrollment decreases, it reduces the capital, but because there's an increase in per pupil funding, it's going to offset some of that decrease. Potential reductions in grant funding as a result of a lower ADM. I think you guys now know, and I think the community now knows, that we are marketing and advertising the district, whether it's on radio, social media, new logos, pins. So we're pushing that. We want to compete, and we believe we're the better choice, as the superintendent always reminds us. Update the demographic study. That's taking a little bit longer than we had hoped. We're looking at late June, so we'll share that as soon as that information becomes available. Just to kind of keep it in perspective, the classroom dollar, which is always the classroom dollar report, is released on March 1st of every year. January 1st of 2020, minimum wage goes from $11 to $12. Salary and wage compression will be ongoing until that's addressed. Decrease in enrollment will cause that our calculation automatically increase non-classroom spending. And it's going to make not only Glendale, but all districts appear to be inefficient if we truly don't understand that all these factors that are outside of our control will cause us to be more inefficient on paper. This one was really important considering the bonds that we just sold and the ratings that we were given, at least by Fitch. We maintained our rating with Standard & Poor. It's important the board understand the various competing interests and the impact of its decisions, and looking at overall the long-term picture. So when we're making decisions, what does that mean financially? How does that impact the financial health of the district? And we need to look at it from 360 degrees. Reduction in operating expenses, our capital needs, the self-insurance solvency, declining enrollment, and the rating agency and the impact to our taxpayers. All that competing interest needs to be taken into account so that we can understand what's going to happen long term and for the sustainability of the district. So that kind of was my self-reflection with this whole selling of bonds, and the comments made about management and the governing board and what's happened in the past and some of our challenges in the future. That's why I think it's very important that you read those two documents by Standard & Poor and Fitch. So hopefully that in itself gives us an advantage and allows us to continue to be financially healthier as we encounter some challenges. With that, that really concludes the presentation, and we're happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Well, you have something?
I just have the one thing. It's nice to see a updated financial report that actually says we got money because our numbers did climb. They didn't climb a lot, but they did climb. And it's a much better problem to have than the other direction.
Any increase we'll take for sure, no doubt. So we are happy as well.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
So, since I see no questions, I need a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the revision number 2 of the 2018-19 expenditure budget.
I'll second.
Ms. Pimentel?
Aye.
Ms. Wilson?
Aye.
Ms. Bartels?
Aye.
I'll vote aye. All right, we are going to 7B. Here comes some good stuff going on here, too.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, it is recommended the governing board approve the hiring of Ms. Tamara Nickel as principal of Bicentennial North School, salary and benefits commensurate to other principals.
Have any comments from anyone? Well, let's do a motion and let's make it official then.
I'll make a motion to approve the hiring of Ms. Tamara Nickel as principal at Bicentennial North.
I'll second.
Oh, let's see. All right, Ms. Pimentel, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Wilson?
Aye.
Ms. Bartels?
Aye.
I vote aye. Congratulations. It's official. are on 7C, employment of another principal.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, it is recommended the governing board approve the hiring of Miss Lori Alonzo as principal of Glen F. Burton School, salary and benefits commensurate to other principals.
I'll make the motion to approve the hiring of Miss Lori Alonzo as principal of Glen F. Burton School.
Second.
All right, Ms. Pimentel?
Aye.
Ms. Wilson?
Aye.
Ms. Bartels?
Aye.
I vote aye. Another official, yay. Congratulations to both of you. I know you guys have worked hard to get there. All right, we are on 7D.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, it is recommended the governing board approve salary placement tables, fringe benefits, and extra duty stipends for the 2019-2020 school year.
All right, so I guess I would ask Ms. Agata-Jones to share some of the comments that the two of us had when we were discussing the agenda on these tables, and why we've seen some of them in our studies, but we've never had any of them brought before us like this. And so I guess if you want to give us some history, and then you guys can ask any questions that you might have on these.
Yes, Madam President, we are required to bring the salary schedules to the governing board. They have not been brought to the governing board for quite some time, and so that's why they are coming to you now. The changes if you look at the salary schedules, you'll have the teacher's salary schedule has changed off and on. There's a period when it changed in 1819. I'm reading it backwards. So we changed the salary schedule for teachers in 15-16, 16-17, no change 17-18, then changes 18-19 and 19-20. So those changes have been made. Those changes always would come to the governing board, because when we go on through a meet and confer process, you were aware of those changes to the salary tables. Some of these salary tables didn't exist, and then some of those changes, for example, when you look at the first one, we're bringing to you one that hasn't been brought before for quite some time, is the administrative salary schedule. And that salary schedule, the last change in that schedule was 2007. So that salary schedule has remained the same for the last 12 years and has not been brought. So we're bringing that to you. Some of the exempt salary schedules that you see, classified exempt, some of those, because when we went to minimum wage, you saw some changes in those tables. Other tables where you didn't see changes in, with the psychologists or the related services or the classified non-benefit, those changes had not taken place again since 07, 08 as well. And other than that, those are the only tables that you have in front of you. But as I said, they need to come to the governing board. They should come to the governing board. They haven't, and so that's why we are bringing them to you. As you know, when we've been going through several study sessions and updating policy, and of course that's where it falls into policy as well. So as we were discovering those things, we were bringing them forward.
So it was also suggested that in the future that we have a study session on these salary schedules, just to just get a little bit more information on what's really going on. And we're talking about things not being changed since 2007 in current states and things like that. So I feel like it's important that we have a chance to actually discuss the salary tables a little bit more. So I don't know when we want to do it, but we'll talk about that in a little bit.
I think it would also, the conversation would go hand in hand when we look at decompressing as well.
So you have any other questions from the board members? No, okay, then we need a motion at this time.
Get back to that sheet.
I'll move to approve the 2019-20 salary placement tables, fringe benefits, and extra duty stipends.
I'll second.
And Ms. Pimentel?
Aye.
Ms. Wilson?
Aye.
Ms. Bartels?
Aye.
I vote aye. Okay, we're going on to 7E, the employment of director.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, it is recommended the governing board approve the hire of Ms. Jody Gallimore as a director of student services, salary benefits commensurate with other directors.
Well,
I'll move to approve the hiring of Ms. Jody Gallimore as Director of Student Services.
I'll second.
hey, Ms. Pimentel?
Aye.
Ms. Wilson?
Aye.
Ms. Bartels?
Aye.
I'll vote aye. Congratulations. Okay. Oh, now we are on to 8, future meetings and events.
Okay, we're looking at the next board meeting is May 23rd. That would be a study session again prior to the board meeting to continue with the policy and manual review. Obviously, we just named 2 principals who were in AP positions. So we will begin that process. And then we will hope to bring those names to you on May 23rd. Okay? So that's important. We have that board meeting because I would want to make sure that if at all possible through the interview process that we would be able to have recommendations, and then the hope that teachers could know who their assistant principals are before they leave. Okay? Next, we would go into June 13th with we would still need to continue the study sessions for the policy manual review. Consider talking about the district strategic planning, and then which would involve that whole process of strategic planning when we get into discussion about mission, vision, board norms, commitments, committees, community involvement. Those topics would be in there. And then we'd leave the end of June for possibly the board self-evaluation and then the proposed budget. Oh, no, we wouldn't need to do that again in June. Yes, we would. We'd have to do it then. And the proposed expenditure budget again at that time. So that is what is currently being recommended.
Are we going to try to start at 5 or earlier in these next few meetings?
What's a good time to start earlier? Because you're starting your 4-day weeks right after
not until after the 23rd board time would be fine, and then June 13th we go into, by then we would be into 410s.
Ms. Pimentel, what's the earliest you could?
I can be here early, as necessary.
Well, what's your preference to start?
If we start at 4, I'm good with 4.
The June meeting's already scheduled at 4 o'clock.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So are you talking about the 23rd?
The 23rd would just be
5 o'clock.
the 5 o'clock like we've done. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay. So are there any other items that board members would want put onto the agenda? Okay, seeing none, let's go to superintendent's report.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board. It's just been, as you know, we've been together a lot with all the celebrations, so it's been remarkable to see all the energy from the teachers and the administrators and the kids, so and the families. So excited about that. Today I did attend with Mr. Cummings the Glendale Rotary, where they acknowledged our teacher, the runner-up teacher of the year at the Rotary, and so that was nice to be there. And other than that, I do want to make an announcement because it is a celebration about data, and today during the systems leadership meeting, Dr. Peterson and Carvalho shared the Azella data, and we got that back, and it's really important that we celebrate good things about it. In particular, there was a huge celebration with our dual language schools, and which we were just hoping that would be the case, because then that tells us that the dual language program is working. So I'll let him share that data.
Make it brief.
We did good. Actually, so good that our at both sites, Jack and at Horizon, 100% of our students reclassified on a Zilla.
Oh, that is.
And that's all I have.
Well, that was good. All right, Ms. Pimentel.
As Superintendent Sagata Jones says, we've been together a lot the last couple of days. So I think that last night's Teachers of the Year and Administrators of the Year and of the Year people were just amazing. And as I watched everybody in the room, I'm sorry, I couldn't say her last name, so the Teacher of the Year for the district. The whole time everybody was being talked about, she was very emphatically nodding her head and arm pumping, and so she was not just Teacher of the Year, she's like the best cheerleader, I think. She was just amazing when she was talking, listening to everybody else. And to Davida, and I don't think she's here, I don't see her anymore, congratulations to her on being one of the healthiest employers. She puts a lot of work, and I think everybody recognizes that. And if you didn't see the art behind me, this is some of the stuff if you didn't go to the art show, because I didn't, and I'm just amazed at our students and their talent, just amazing. Congratulations to the retirees and the poetry the children wrote. I can't wait to go home and read the other ones, because the ones that were read here out loud were just very touching. And to all of our mothers and the dads that make up for mothers and grandparents, happy Mother's Day.
And just to add on to that, for Teacher Appreciation Week, just want to thank you all the teachers. Not only do you teach our kids, but you keep them safe, and you are so important in their lives. And I wish Teacher Appreciation could be every week of the year, and it really should be. So congratulations to all the teachers on that. And didn't make it to yesterday's awards, but congratulations to everyone. The healthiest employer breakfast was interesting, but to say the least. But congratulations to Davida, to the district, for all of that. So lots going on this month, and there is a light at the end of the tunnel, so we will get there.
This time of year is always, it's a good chaos. I know it doesn't feel it at the moment, but the energy that, from our students to our staff and the celebrations that are going on, from, celebrating our students and their poetry, our retirees, our Teachers of the Year, Principals of the Year, support staff, our wellness program. And I can honestly say there was a lot of conversation on how we submit our application for next year to get the top honors. What's going on at that table. But there's a lot of great stuff going on in Glendale, and I'm proud of this district and what happens in it every day. So kudos to our teachers as well as everybody that supports them in their endeavors every day.
I'm just going to say these celebrations have really been great celebrations, and yesterday, Mr. Cummings was recognized by Mr. Sagata Jones for his photos, and so when I went home, I was so impressed with the expressions that you got of Miss Cleaver as she found out that she was Teacher of the Year. Those were probably one of the best photos that that I've seen. That was really smart of you to be where you were, because it was great, and all of these things have been really nice, and Ms. Bartels and I were able to also go to the new schoolhouse that you have, and I thought, wow, what a great thing for our teachers, and I just know it's just going to get better. Everything just gets better, as I've been here, and I'm just impressed with everything. And then on I don't even remember my nights anymore. I think Tuesday night after I left something, I went to my son's band concert at Apollo, and one of our GESD shirts was there, walking right down the auditorium. And so, and then my friend leaned over and said, "Isn't that a great shirt to see?" So it's working.
It's cuter than the others, too.
That's exactly what I said. So at that, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I forgot what we had to do to get out of here.